Thanks for joining me on episode 565 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Joe Shum from Soul Patch Hippo Success Coaching. I want to serve your journey to be the next version of you, to be inspired to become the most authentic you. Listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast by my friend Scott Mader, every day can help you keep the focus that you need.
Then you end up trapped feeling like you've never been able to successfully change anything, and you stay stuck where you are. I've heard people with that limiting belief, I can't change how I act with my money. I've tried before and I've failed. But the truth is, the fact that you've tried before and failed probably makes you human.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about investing in others through stewarding your treasures, I talk with you about why there really isn't an app for that, how the tool isn't the secret to changing your life and your money, and what the true key is to fix your life or help others work on theirs. As we talk about stewarding your treasures, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without costing yourself an extra dime? Turns out you can. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show. If you enjoy the show when you're ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon. Whether I'm talking with people about how to use their time, how to use their money, one of the things that comes up more and more nowadays is, what's the app that I could use that would get my money in order? What's the app that I could use that would get me more productive, that would make me where I'm able to get organized? What's the magic app that's going to fix my life? And the short answer is, there isn't an app for that. Sure, there are all sorts of tools that you can use that will help you get organized. You can look at the systems that we use to have a minimal lifestyle. You can look at things like Asana and other tools that help you use your time more effectively. You can look for tools like YNAB or even a simple Excel spreadsheet so that you can do your budget. You can find all sorts of tools that help you measure and track what happened with your money. You can find tools that will let you measure and track and plan for the future. But the truth is, those tools don't change anything. You are the app that changes how you behave with money or with time. At the end of the day, the tool plus the habits, plus the mindset and behaviors that you exhibit is the system that you live in. And you can actually address all of these. You need something for each of these to be able to really be effective. So let's take money, for example. When you think about the tools around money, you need a tool that allows you to plan, and you need a tool that allows you to measure how you've actually executed on that plan, a tracking tool. That may be one tool, that may be more than one tool. Depends on your life and your situation as to what's most effective for you. But if you have that tool and you never use it, then it doesn't do anything for you. This is where habits and routines and systems come in. When you set up a habit and allow you to check that tool in an effective way so that you always plan before the month begins. You always track as you go through the month in a regular way so that you don't get too far off track before you have a chance to adjust. And you actually do the reflection and make the adjustment in your behavior that's needed. Then that tool becomes effective because you've layered on habits on top of it that allow you to behave in a way that allows you to adjust. But let's look at the mindset and the behavior. Because see, the truth is, you can have all the tools in the world, but if you don't actually use that tool to figure out what is important to me and am I moving in that direction? If I'm not doing things that are getting me what I want, what can I do to change what I'm doing? What can I do to make adjustments to my behavior and my mindset and my beliefs? Are there things that I believe about money that just aren't true? Are there things I believe about money that are limiting my ability to do things that I really want to do? And if I am, what can I do to change that mindset? What can I do to examine that limiting belief? Have I surrounded myself with people that actually challenge my thinking? Have I plugged in and allowed myself to develop a mindset that's abundance and growth oriented rather than scarcity and stagnation oriented? See, that is the true key to fixing your life. Recognizing the fact that it's not about the tool. It's not about the habit. It's not about the mindset. It's about all of them, so that you can develop a system that allows you to really effectively change your life. And when you think about making a change, you have to recognize that change comes in phases. It's a process. It's not an event. You don't just suddenly change your behavior or your habits. Instead, usually we start with a mode or a thought process where we're thinking about changing. The fancy term for that is the pre-contemplation stage. You begin to rethink your behavior. You begin to think about how you're acting and what's happening and why this might be something that you want to change. And then you begin to do what they call the contemplation stage. Well, if it's pre-contemplation, then after that should be contemplation, right? And this is still thinking, but you begin to be more analytical about it. You begin to weigh the pros and cons. You begin to test and adjust and begin to measure what is it going to take to a change. You begin to identify things that are holding you back from doing the things that you really want to do that are keeping you from changing. And then you begin to prepare and experiment and change the behavior a little bit at a time. You begin to prepare to take action and then take action. Here's the interesting thing. It's after that phase, when we get into the maintenance phase, that most people slip backwards. This is when most people fall down on making a change, because after maintenance, they relapse and they go back to the beginning. And if you don't recognize that that's a natural part of change, this ability to slip back to where you were before is a natural part. And if you don't build into your process the ability to recognize that and move forward again and make the change again so that it will eventually stick, then you end up trapped feeling like you've never been able to successfully change anything and you stay stuck where you are. I've heard people with that limiting belief. I can't change how I act with my money. I've tried before and I've failed. But the truth is, the fact that you've tried before and failed probably makes you human. Because that's a normal thing that happens. You relapse back to where you were before. Instead, to sustain that change, you have to circle back and retake action. You have to keep repeating that loop over and over again. And eventually, over time, that habit finally sticks. And then you've got the correct mindset, you've got the correct habit, you've got the correct tool, and you've created a system that allows you to sustain a new normal. And then you can begin to examine it all over again. And if you do this often enough and regularly enough, what you discover is your life begins to stair step upwards in a way that's always positive instead of stagnating. Sure, you may slip backwards. You may have a moment of weakness or something goes wrong and you slip back. But over time, in the process, not the event of life, your progress is better because it's about progress, not perfect. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of treasures, you can sign up for our treasures tips by going to inspiredstewardship.com/treasures or text in the U.S. 44222 treasures tips. And we'll send you 5 weeks of our best tips on stewarding your treasures. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.